Seagulls cry piercingly in Annapolis in the morning. They say it means rain, but I know better. They're just as old and grumpy as I am. I get up with the first rays of sun at 5:30, even though I don't need a clock. 67 years on schedule. The body knows when it's time. My joints ache more than yesterday, but it's bearable. Limping, I make my way to the kitchen and put the kettle on. My house creaks and sighs with me. We're both getting older. The house is on the shore of the bay. Lorraine and I bought it for next to nothing. An old ramshackle place with a sagging roof and a rotten porch. "Christopher, you're crazy," our friend said. "The repairs alone will cost more than the house itself." But I saw the potential. I replaced every board with my own hands, hammered in every nail myself. That was 32 years ago. Lorraine died 5 years ago, quietly in her sleep. She just didn't wake up in the morning, even though we had planned to go to the nursery to get some hydrangeas for the backyard the day before. "I want more flowers, Chris. Blue ones, like the sea on a clear day." We didn't make it. The house is too big for one person. 4 bedrooms, a living room with panoramic windows overlooking the bay, a spacious kitchen where Lorraine used to make blueberry pancakes on weekends. The smell drove all the neighbors crazy. Now I only use the first floor. I go upstairs once a week to dust and check for leaks in the roof. Standing on the porch with a cup of coffee, I watch the sun rise over the water. It changes color from pale pink to bright orange. The water sparkles as if sprinkled with diamonds. I never tire of this sight, even after 32 years. My daily ritual, coffee on the porch, then a leisurely walk along the shore, weather permitting. Today it does. The end of spring has turned out to be surprisingly warm. Waves roll lazily onto the sand, leaving wet footprints. I walk slowly, a stick helping me keep my balance on the uneven sand. I collect particularly beautiful shells. I have a whole collection at home, arranged in glass jars. "Dad, what do you need all this junk for?" Elvis asks me every time he visits. I look at them and remember how Lorraine, lifting the hem of her summer dress, ran through the water looking for the most unusual specimens. Elvis is my only daughter. She was born late, when Lorraine and I had given up hope. We named her after a singer my wife adored. The girl grew up beautiful, stubborn, and practical to the core. Unlike us, I was a romantic dreamer. Lorraine was a giggler and an optimist. Elvis always knew what she wanted and went after it. At 22, she married Perry Clapton, a guy from a good family with a business school degree and ambitions that didn't fit in his skinny chest. Perry, the mere thought of my son-in-law makes my jaw clench. A typical dandy in expensive suits, with a fake smile and a calculating look in his eyes. He works at an insurance company as a risk specialist. The biggest risk he misjudged was marrying my daughter. She's tougher than him. He thought he was getting a good deal, a pretty girl from a family with a steady income. Instead, he got a wife who bosses him around like a drill sergeant. I get home around 9. Breakfast is eggs and bacon with toast and jam. Lorraine said that breakfast like that would kill me, but she's gone now, and I'm still here with my cholesterol and clogged arteries. After breakfast, I watch the news on TV, then read a book. Today it's a detective story, not a new one. I prefer the classics, Agatha Christie, Rex Stout, Dashiell Hammett. Modern authors are too preoccupied with blood and psychology. I like a simple mystery to solve. The doorbell rings at 12:20. I'm not expecting any guests, but I know from the distinctive double ring that it's Elvis. Only she rings so impatiently, as if every second counts. "Dad, you're not answering your phone again." My daughter attacks me from the doorway, rushing into the house like a Category 5 hurricane. Behind her, as usual, Perry trails along with a forced smile. "Hello, sweetheart." "Good afternoon, Perry," I reply, taking my time getting up from the chair. "The phone's been acting up. It rarely rings." That's a lie. I just don't answer when I see their number. I know what this is going to be about. "We called 5 times." Elvis throws her purse on the sofa and surveys the living room critically. "God, Dad, when was the last time you cleaned? It smells like an old man." "That's because an old man lives here," I say with a smirk. "What would you like it to smell like? Lavender and unicorns?" Perry chuckles quietly, but immediately gets a withering look from his wife and instantly transforms into a sycophantic son-in-law. "Christopher, how's your back?" he asks. They say this spring is especially hard on people with arthritis. I shrug. My back is my back. It creaks, but it holds up. What brings you here on a weekday? Shouldn't you be at work? Elvis walks into the kitchen, opens the refrigerator, and grimaces at its contents. I hear her muttering something about unbalanced diets and how he's still alive. Typical concern of modern children. Everything from books and articles on the internet. We have great news, Dad, she finally announces, returning to the living room. Perry and I are going on a cruise for 2 whole weeks. Caribbean islands, all inclusive, the best vacation ever. That's great, I nod. Have a nice trip. Bring me back a magnet for the refrigerator. Dad, you don't understand. Elvis sits down on the edge of the sofa, adjusting her perfectly ironed skirt. This is an important trip for us. Perry got a promotion, and we want to celebrate properly. Congratulations, Perry. Now you'll be denying people insurance with an even bigger salary? My son-in-law turns pale but keeps a brave smile on his face. Actually, I'll be managing an entire department now, Christopher. More administrative work. And more money, Elvis adds proudly. Which means, Dad, we can finally help you out. Here we go. It's starting. I cross my arms over my chest and prepare for the next round. I don't need any help, Elvis. My pension is enough. The house is paid off. I'm in excellent health for my age. Dad, she leans forward, using that special tone she uses for serious conversations. You live alone in a huge house that needs constant maintenance. The roof is leaking, the porch needs repairs, the garden is overgrown. You're 67, and it's only going to get harder with every passing year. I'm managing, I snap. No, you're not. For the first time, irritation slips into her voice. You live like a recluse, eat fast food, ignore your doctors. When was the last time you checked your blood pressure? Yesterday, 130/80, perfect for my age. Actually, I don't remember the last time I checked my blood pressure. Probably when Lorraine was alive. She kept track of things like that. Dad, Elvis takes a deep breath as if preparing to dive. Perry and I think you should consider Coastal Haven. Coastal Haven is an upscale retirement home 15 miles away. More like a resort for the wealthy, with a pool, a golf course, and round-the-clock medical staff, and prices that would make your blood run cold. Elvis, we've already discussed this. 100 times, I'm not moving anywhere. Dad, be reasonable, she raises her voice. Coastal Haven isn't a retirement home in the old sense. It's a community for active retirees. There's a book club, painting classes, excursions. And I'll be the only one who can still make it to the bathroom on my own, I interrupt. Thanks, but no thanks. If it's money you're worried about, Perry interjects, don't worry, Christopher. We've got it all figured out. If we sell this house, we'll have enough money to live comfortably at Coastal Haven for many years. I stare at him so intently that he takes a step back. Sell the house? My house. The house I built with my own hands? Where every floorboard holds memories of Lorraine. Dad, Elvis steps closer and takes my hand. Her fingers are cold and thin. I understand how attached you are to this place, but Mom would want you to be safe. Under supervision. Among people. Don't you dare, I pull my hand away. Don't you dare tell me what your mother would want. She would want me to be happy, and I'm happy here, in our house. Happy? Elvis throws her hands up. You live like a recluse. The only people you talk to are seagulls. You don't even answer my phone calls. Because every conversation comes down to this. I point to the space between us. To trying to force me to sell the house and move into a damn nursing home. Dad, watch your language. I'm in my house. I'll say what I want. We stand facing each other, breathing heavily. Perry stands to one side, not knowing where to go. Coward. Dad, Elvis lowers his voice, adopting the tone of a schoolteacher. We're going away for 2 weeks. Please just think about our offer. I brought you some brochures. She takes the glossy booklets out of her bag and places them on the coffee table. Read them. See what the conditions are. I stare silently at the brochures. We brought you some groceries, she continues peacefully. We put them in the fridge. And your medicine. Everything's on the list. Thank you, I squeeze out. And also, she hesitates. Your phone. It's really broken. We'll take it with us and buy you a new one. A modern one with big buttons, especially for seniors. I want to say that I don't need a senior phone, that I'm perfectly capable of using a regular one, but I decide to keep quiet. The sooner they leave, the better. Okay, I agree. Where is it? In the bedroom, on the nightstand. Elvis heads for the stairs. No, I stop her. In the kitchen. I left it to charge. She goes to the kitchen, and I exchange tense glances with Perry. How's the fishing, Christopher? He tries to lighten the mood. Caught anything this season? No. An awkward silence hangs in the air. I can hear Elvis rummaging around in the kitchen. I found it, she announces finally, returning with my old push-button phone. Dad, that's an antique. It's at least 10 years old. It works, so it's fine. It doesn't work, she says, showing me the black screen. It's broken. Don't worry, we'll bring you a new one. In the meantime, she looks back. You have a landline, don't you? Yes. I nod toward the ancient device on the table by the sofa, but I rarely use it. Okay, she looks at her watch. We have to go, Dad. The plane leaves in 3 hours, and we still have to stop by the house to pick up our luggage. They are about to leave. Elvis kisses me on the cheek. Her perfume is too sweet and makes me feel a little nauseous. Dad, promise you'll think about Coastal Haven, she asks at the door. I'll think about it, I say without enthusiasm. And call Della, she adds. She's your neighbor 2 doors down. I gave her our hotel number, just in case. Della Mason? I asked, surprised. We barely know her. Nevertheless, she agreed to keep an eye on you, Elvis says curtly. Someone has to. They leave. Perry mumbles something about the nice weather and happy sailing as he leaves. I stand in the doorway watching their silver Lexus pull out onto the road. Calm down and think about your behavior. Elvis's last words reach me through the rolled-down window. I slam the door and return to the living room. I pick up the brochures and throw them in the trash without hesitation. My coastal haven is here, in the house I built for Lorraine and me, in a place where every corner holds memories, where I can step out onto the porch and watch the seagulls, the waves, the sunset, where I feel my wife's presence in the creaking floorboards, in the sound of the wind, in the scent of the flowers she planted. No one will make me leave this house. Not Elvis with her concern, not Perry with his financial calculations. I'll die here just as I planned, preferably in my own bed, quietly in my sleep, like Lorraine, but not today and not tomorrow. I still have a lot to do. For example, tomorrow I'm going to finish reading a detective novel and start rereading Moby Dick, for the 100th time probably, and no coastal harbor brochures will stop me. I spend the evening as usual. Dinner in front of the TV, the news, then a little more reading. A strange feeling won't leave me. Something about Elvis and Perry's behavior was off. Too insistent, too prepared. Maybe I'm becoming paranoid. Or maybe I'm just getting old and seeing conspiracies where there aren't any. I fall asleep in my chair with the book on my lap. I dream of Lorraine, young in a colorful dress, laughing on the shore. Be careful, Chris, she says to me. Not everything is what it seems. The morning greets me with an unusual silence. The seagulls are silent, a sure sign of an approaching storm. The sky is overcast with gray clouds, heavy as my thoughts about yesterday's conversation with Elvis. I struggle to get out of the chair where I spent the night. My back is stiff, my knees ache, and my mouth is dry, as if I've been swallowing sand. Old age is no joy, as my mother used to say. I put the kettle on in the kitchen and take eggs and bacon out of the refrigerator. Elvis did bring groceries after all. At least she had the decency to do that. Vegetables, yogurt, some kind of cereal. Everything she considers proper nutrition for the elderly. And thank God, my favorite bacon. She must have decided to treat an old man. While I'm making breakfast, my gaze falls on the landline phone. For some reason, the light on the answering machine isn't flashing, even though there are usually a couple of meaningless advertising calls that accumulate overnight. I pick up the receiver. Silence. No dial tone, no message about problems on the line, just dead silence. Strange. The cord seems to be in place, and the phone is on. Maybe there's a problem with the line because of the approaching storm? I eat breakfast without rushing, enjoying the silence. Then I decide to do what I do every morning. Go out to the porch with a cup of coffee and watch the bay. I grab the doorknob. It turns normally, but the door won't open an inch. It's as if someone has propped it from the outside. I pull harder. Nothing. It's locked tight. My first thought is that the wind has slammed it shut and warped it. That sometimes happens with old doors. I go to the back door leading to the garden. Same story. The handle turns, but the door doesn't budge. A chill runs down my spine. Something's not right. I go to the living room window, the largest in the house overlooking the bay. I try to open it. It's jammed. Or locked? I look closer and notice a shiny new lock on the frame that definitely wasn't there yesterday. I go around the entire first floor, checking every window and every door. It's the same story everywhere. New locks installed from the outside. Someone has methodically and thoroughly locked me out of my own house. My first emotion is bewilderment, then fear, and finally anger. Who dared? Thieves, vandals. But why lock the owner inside? And then it dawns on me. Elvis, Perry, their strange behavior yesterday. The insistent talk about coastal harbor. The broken phone taken away. The phone line disconnected. It can't be. I don't want to believe it. My own daughter couldn't have locked me in my own house. But all the evidence points to them. They took my cell phone. They knew the landline wasn't working. They must have disconnected it themselves. They brought food, enough to keep me from starving to death during the 2 weeks they're gone. 2 weeks. They plan to keep me locked up for 2 weeks while they enjoy themselves on their cruise. I sit down in a chair trying to calm my breathing. My heart is pounding like crazy. I need to think clearly. There has to be a way out. Literally. I go up to the second floor. There's a small window in the bathroom. Maybe they didn't get to it, but it's locked from the outside. Someone went to a lot of trouble to make sure I couldn't get out. I go back to the living room and try to break the window. The heavy paperweight my colleagues gave me when I retired bounces off the glass without even leaving a scratch. Damn it, this isn't normal glass. It's bulletproof glass that Lorraine and I had installed after Hurricane Isabel, when half the city was left without windows. They thought of everything. They knew I could break regular glass. They picked a time when a storm was forecast and no one would be surprised if the phone was disconnected. They made sure I had enough food. I am overcome with helpless rage. How dare they? What are they thinking? Of course, I understand why. They want to show me how helpless I am, to prove that I can't live on my own, that I need constant supervision and care, so that after 2 weeks locked up, I'll beg them to take me back to Coastal Haven. They'll be waiting a long time. I methodically go around the house again, checking every possible exit. The basement is locked from the outside, the attic window too. They've even blocked the chimney with something. I try to light the fireplace, but the smoke comes back into the room. Professional work. It's as if they've been preparing for this for months. Maybe that's what happened. Perry's random visits with tools, his interest in the condition of the house, questions about where the spare keys were. They were working out a plan while smiling at me and talking about how concerned they were. By noon, I've exhausted all possible escape routes and sit down at the kitchen table, mulling over the situation. The facts: I'm locked in my own house. There's no phone service. I've never had internet. Lorraine was interested in it, but I thought it was a waste of money. My neighbors are far away. The closest one is 1/4 of a mile away, and we don't talk. Elvis and Perry will be back in 2 weeks. What can I do? I could try to attract the attention of passing cars or boats in the bay, but my driveway isn't visible from the main road, and the house is partially hidden by trees. There's little chance from the bay either. Boats rarely come close to shore in this area. I could try writing a note and somehow getting it outside, but all the windows are locked, and even if I break the glass, which is extremely difficult with armored windows, the note could just fly away or get wet in the rain. I could try to signal for help, for example, turn on the lights on the second floor at night, or make an SOS sign out of towels in the window. But who would be looking at my house closely enough to notice? In any case, I have 2 weeks to come up with and execute a plan. Elvis underestimated me. I may be old, but I'm not helpless. I open the refrigerator and take inventory. Eggs, bacon, milk, bread, vegetables, fruit, yogurt, cheese. Enough for a week if I don't skimp. 2 weeks if I stretch it out. In the pantry, there are canned goods, cereals, pasta. Enough for at least another week. I definitely won't starve to death. The water is running, The electricity is working. The bathroom and toilet are all functioning. They didn't want to hurt me physically, only psychologically. Well, they succeeded. I feel humiliated, enraged, betrayed by my own daughter. And in this rage, a decision is born. I'm not just going to get out of here. I'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget. The day passes in fruitless attempts to find a way out and in thinking about revenge. By evening, I resign myself to the idea that I won't be able to get out of here quickly. It will take time and patience. I prepare a simple dinner and eat without appetite. Outside, it begins to rain, lightly at first, then harder and harder. The rain splatters against the window and the wind howls in the chimney. It's the perfect weather for my confinement. No one will be surprised that old Holland doesn't leave the house in such weather. I spend the night awake, sitting in a chair in the living room, watching the raging bay. The waves, illuminated by occasional flashes of lightning, crash against the shore with a roar that echoes my inner storm. The morning of my second day of confinement brings no new ideas. The rain has stopped, but the sky is still overcast. I move around the house like a zombie, aimless and listless. Apathy overwhelms me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I really am too old to live alone. Here I am in this situation, and I can't even get out of it. I shake my head, chasing away these thoughts. That's exactly what they want. For me to feel helpless, to give up. I won't give up. After breakfast, I begin a methodical search of the house, this time not looking for a way out, but for tools. Something to break the locks or smash the glass. In the basement, I find an old toolbox. A hammer, screwdrivers, pliers. Not very impressive, but better than nothing. I go up to the second floor and try to pick the lock on the bedroom window. The most accessible one. 2 hours of struggle, and all I've achieved is a broken screwdriver and a cut hand. The lock won't budge, and I'm exhausted. Damn old age. By the evening of the second day, I'm sitting in the living room again, looking out at the bay. The storm has passed, the water is calm, almost mirror-like. Somewhere out there, beyond the horizon, my daughter and son-in-law are sailing on a luxury liner, drinking cocktails and laughing, imagining how I'm struggling here in a locked house. On the third day, I try again to attract attention. I hang a large sheet out of the second-floor window with the word "help" written in blueberry juice. The sheet is barely visible from the road, and trees block the view of the house from the bay. I try turning the lights on and off at night, hoping someone will notice the strange behavior. But who would be looking at my windows at 2 in the morning? The fourth day, the fifth. They merge into a monotonous routine. I eat, sleep, read books, watch TV, try to come up with new ways to escape, to no avail. On the sixth day, I notice a boat in the bay heading towards my shore. Hope flares up. Maybe someone has noticed my distress signal. I wave my arms and shout, even though I know they can't hear me through the closed windows. The boat sails past. Fishermen, just fishermen, not even looking toward the shore. The seventh day brings an unexpected idea. I remember the mailman. He's supposed to come 3 times a week, if I can get his attention. I wait all day, looking out the window facing the mailbox by the road. No one. Of course, today is Sunday. The postman will come tomorrow, if he comes at all. I mostly receive advertisements and bills, most of which are paid automatically. That evening, I sit in the kitchen, thinking about the situation. A week has passed. Another week of confinement ahead. My thoughts grow darker. What if I never get out? What if Elvis and Perry come back and find me here, broken, ready to accept any terms they offer? I can't let that happen. I don't just have to get out, I have to get revenge. Show them that they can't treat me like this, that their actions will have consequences, and then a plan is born. A cunning, cruel, perhaps even unethical plan. But a just one, in my opinion. When I get out of here, I won't just report them to the police. I'll tell them that they didn't leave me any food, that they cut off my water, that they deliberately tried to harm me, not just teach me a lesson. My word against theirs? Yes. But I am a respected member of the community, a former port inspector, a veteran of the service, and they are greedy children who want to get rid of their old father so they can take his property. Who will believe me? They will believe me, and I can prove it. I'll plant evidence. Empty the fridge, hide the food, partially turn off the water. make a mess in the house as if I was desperately looking for something to eat. This isn't just revenge, it's justice. They decided to show me how helpless I am. I'll show them what it means to deal with an angry old man who has nothing to lose. The thought of this plan strangely calms me down. Now I have a goal, not just to get out, but to set the stage for my revenge. I spend my 8th day of confinement working out the details of my plan. Every little detail must be thought out. How to hide the food so the police won't find it. How to make it look like I've really been starving. What story to tell to make it sound plausible. And yes, I'm a little ashamed. I've never been a liar. I've always despised those who try to win by dishonest means. But this is war. They started it, not me. And I intend to win. By the evening of the 8th day, I notice movement on the driveway. My heart skips a beat. Could someone have come? But no, it's just a deer that has wandered onto my property. It calmly nibbles at the grass, unaware that a few meters away, an old man is willing to sell his soul for the chance to be in its place. Free. I go to bed with a heavy heart, but with firm resolve. Tomorrow I'll start preparing evidence for the police, and then I'll wait and look for a way out. Or I'll wait for Elvis and Perry to return and give them a surprise they'll never forget. Cold rage fills me. I no longer just want to get out. I want them to pay for the humiliation, for their betrayal, for daring to treat me like a child or an incompetent old man. They'll regret it. I'll make sure of that. On the 6th day of my confinement, I've gotten used to my new routine. In the morning, I have breakfast and take inventory of my supplies. In the afternoon, I try to find a way out, which becomes less and less likely with each passing day. In the evening, I watch TV or read a book to drown out the silence of the empty house. I'm still angry, but not as intensely. My anger has turned into something cold and calculating. I've stopped wasting energy on futile attempts to escape. Now all my thoughts are focused on what will happen when I finally get out. I sit by the window overlooking the road all day long, watching for any passers-by. A couple of times I saw the car of my neighbor Dell, the one Elvis asked to keep an eye on me. But she didn't even slow down near the house. Apparently, her daughter just asked her to call if she saw anything suspicious, but not to check on me personally. Typical modern concern from a distance without any hassle. On the 6th day, looking out the window from my usual observation post, I noticed movement on the road. I squinted. My eyesight isn't what it used to be. A male figure in a blue uniform. My heart leapt. The postman. Not just any postman. It was Vernon White. We've known each other for over 20 years. He used to work as a docker at the port where I was an inspector. Then he got a job with the Postal Service, more stable, with health insurance, which was important for his sick wife. A good guy, reliable. We're not close friends, but we always exchange a few words when we meet. I usually go out to meet him if I'm home when he delivers. He knows my habits. Will he notice that I didn't come out? Vernon walks up to the mailbox, opens it, and puts something inside. He slams the lid shut, glances at the house, hesitates. I start tapping on the glass. He turns his head but doesn't seem to see me. I'm too far away. I grab the table lamp and start turning it on and off. The flashes of light catch his attention. He looks straight at my window, squinting. I wave my arms and keep knocking. Finally, he starts walking toward the house, slowly, puzzled. He gets closer, and now we can see each other. "Chris?" he says silently through the glass. "Are you okay?" I gesture that the door is locked and I can't get out. He frowns, goes to the front door, and jiggles the handle. Then he looks back at me. "Wait!" I shout, even though I know he can hardly hear me through the thick glass. I quickly find a notepad and a pen and write in large letters. "Locked in the house. Call the police." I press the note against the glass. Vernon reads it, his eyes widening. He nods and takes out his cell phone. He says something into the phone, glancing at me constantly. Finally, he gives me a thumbs up and gestures that the police will be there soon. I breathe a sigh of relief, finally. But then a thought flashes through my mind. The police will come and free me. I'll tell them that my own daughter locked me up. But will they believe me? Elvis will say that it was just a moment of discipline, that the house is full of food and all the amenities, that I'm just a cranky old man who doesn't understand how much she cares about him. It'll be my word against his, And who is more likely to win? A daughter with a respectable husband who cares about her troubled father? Or an old man who claims he was locked up for selfish reasons? I have to make them believe me. To leave no doubt about the cruelty of Elvis and Perry, a plan forms in my head in an instant. I look at Vernon, still standing near the house, and gesture that the police are on their way. He nods and heads for the road, apparently intending to meet them and show them the way. I have time. Not much, but enough. I run to the kitchen and open the refrigerator. It's full of food. Elvis made sure of that. But the police won't find out. Methodically, I unload all the food. Milk, eggs, vegetables, fruit, cheese, sausage. I put it all in a large laundry basket. Then I empty the bread box and the pantry of all the canned goods and grains. Everything goes into the basket. I carry the heavy load down to the basement. There, behind some old boxes of Christmas decorations, there is a small niche in the wall that I once planned to turn into a wine cellar, but never got around to it. The perfect place for a hiding place. I put the food in the niche and cover it with boxes. No one will find it unless they look for it, and no one will look for it. Why would the police search the victim's house? I return to the kitchen. Now the cupboards and refrigerator are empty. For authenticity, I smash a couple of plates on the floor, as if I was desperately looking for food and accidentally broke the dishes. Now for the water. I go to the basement where the water taps are located. I turn off the main valve, not completely so that a minimal trickle remains, but enough to give the impression that the water has been turned off. Then I open it again partially. The water should flow, but very weakly, as if someone had turned it off from outside, but not completely. I go back upstairs and check the tap in the kitchen. Perfect. It's barely running. Enough to keep me from dying of thirst, but it looks like a joke. Now I need to make it look like I've really been suffering from hunger and thirst. I go to the bathroom and look at myself in the mirror. I don't look exhausted enough. I wash my face with cold water and ruffle my hair. I find an old t-shirt with paint stains on it and put it on. Now that's better. The final touch is to make a mess of the house. I knock over a couple of chairs, scatter books around, and pull out the drawers of the dresser. It should look like I've been desperately searching the house for something to eat. I finish just in time. I hear a police siren. I go to the window. Vernon is standing in the street, waving his arms to direct the patrol car. The police car pulls up to the house. Two people get out. A young officer and an older woman, presumably his partner. Vernon is explaining something to them, pointing at the house. They approach the front door. I press myself against the window. The female officer notices me and waves. I gesture desperately, pointing to the locked door. The officers examine the door and discover new locks. The young policeman tries to open the door, but to no avail. They talk among themselves, then the female officer returns to the car and takes out some kind of tool, a crowbar or a pry bar. Several minutes of intense effort pass. Finally, there is a crack. The door gives way. The locks are broken and the door swings open. I rush into the hallway, almost falling over. The officers enter the house. "Sir, are you all right?" asks the female officer. Her badge says, "Parker." "No." I shake my head, trying to keep my voice low. "They locked me in. My daughter and her husband. They locked me in and went on a cruise." "Sit down, sir." Officer Parker helps me to the sofa. "Do you need medical attention?" "Water," I croak. "Please, water." They turned off the water. I haven't had proper food or water for almost a week. A young officer, his badge says Reed, quickly goes to the kitchen. I hear him turn on the tap. "Gene, the water's barely running," he shouts to his partner. "And the fridge is empty. There's nothing in it." Officer Parker frowns, looking at me with growing concern. "They didn't feed you?" she asks. "They left almost nothing," I say, looking her straight in the eye. "A little bread and cheese, which ran out quickly." I drank water from the tap until they turned it off almost completely. Officer Reed returns with a glass of water. I drink it in small sips, pretending to be weak. "Who did this to you, sir?" Officer Parker asks, taking out her notebook. "My daughter, Elvis Clapton, and her husband, Perry," I reply. "They arrived a week ago and said they were going on a 2-week cruise. They took my cell phone and disconnected the landline. The next morning, I found myself locked in my own house." "Why would they do that?" Officer Reed asks, puzzled. "They want me to sell the house and move into a nursing home," and I explain. "They need money. They thought that after 2 weeks of confinement, I'd be ready to agree to anything. but I didn't expect them to leave me without food or water. This is, this is attempted murder, isn't it? The officers exchange glances. I can see they are shocked. Can you show us what they did? Officer Parker asks. I slowly get up, pretending to be weak, and lead them through the house. I show them the new locks on the windows and doors installed from the outside, the empty refrigerator and pantry, the tap barely trickling water, the mess supposedly caused by my desperate search for food. They locked all the exits, I say. They even covered the chimney with something. Professional work. They planned this. You need to go to the hospital, sir, Officer Parker decides. You're clearly dehydrated and exhausted. We'll call an ambulance. What about my daughter and son-in-law? I ask. They're coming back in a week. I'm afraid they'll try again. Don't worry about that, Officer Parker says firmly. We'll open a case. Unlawful imprisonment, abuse of an elderly person, possibly even attempted murder, if everything is confirmed. They face serious punishment. Do we have their contact information? Officer Reed asks. Address, phone number? In my notebook, I say, pointing to the table. But they're on a cruise right now. Caribbean Sea. That's okay, Officer Parker says, flipping through my notebook. We'll find them. Right now, the most important thing is your health. Officer Reed calls an ambulance. Vernon is still standing outside the house, looking worried. Can I talk to my friend? I ask, pointing to Vernon. Officer Parker nods. Vernon enters the house, his eyes widening when he sees the mess. My God, Chris, what happened? He asks. Elvis and Perry, I reply in a weak voice. They locked me up. No food. Almost no water. Your own daughter? Vernon can't believe it. But why? The house, I shrug. They want the money from selling the house. I refuse to move into a nursing home, so they decided to convince me this way. Vernon shakes his head, shocked. It's a good thing I noticed something was wrong, he says. You usually always come out when I bring in the mail. You haven't been out for a week. I thought maybe you were sick or had gone away. But then I saw the lights on and decided to check. Thank you, I squeeze his hand. You saved my life. Another week and I wouldn't have made it. The sound of sirens can be heard. The ambulance is arriving. The medics enter the house and quickly examine me. They diagnose dehydration and exhaustion. They insist on hospitalization. I don't resist. It's part of the plan. As they carry me out on a stretcher, I take one last look at my home. I feel a pang of conscience. After all, I lied. I exaggerated the situation. But then I remember the humiliation I felt when I realized I was locked up by my own daughter. No, they deserve this. They wanted to teach me a lesson? Well, I'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Officer Parker sits down next to me in the ambulance. We'll get to the bottom of this, Mr. Holland, she assures me. What your daughter and son-in-law did is a crime, a serious crime, and they will be held accountable under the law. I nod weakly, closing my eyes. A dark satisfaction blossoms inside me. The plan worked. The police believed every word I said. They saw the evidence. The empty refrigerator, the turned-off water, the traces of a desperate search for food. Elvis and Perry have no idea what awaits them when they return from their sunny cruise. But they will soon find out, and it will be the most important lesson of their lives. Never underestimate an old man who has been stripped of control over his own life. The ambulance takes me away from home, away to a new chapter in my life. A chapter where I will no longer be a helpless victim, but the dispenser of justice. The hospital greets me with sterile whiteness and the smell of antiseptic. Nurses bustle around, checking my blood pressure and taking my temperature. A doctor who introduces himself as doctor. Fielding examines me with professional thoroughness. Your vitals are surprisingly stable, Mr. Holland, he says, looking over the results of the initial tests. Your blood pressure is a little high, but that's understandable given the stress you've been through. There are no signs of serious dehydration or exhaustion. I can barely suppress a smile. Of course, there are no signs. I've been eating normally and drinking water all week. But out loud, I say something completely different. I tried to conserve what little I had, doctor. I drank water from the tap while it was still running, and then I collected condensation from the windows in the mornings. I did everything I could to survive. Dr. Fielding frowns as he looks at the test results, then at me. His expression shows slight confusion. The medical indicators don't quite match the story I'm telling. But I continue. You know, doctor, my father was in the military. He taught me how to survive in extreme conditions. I never thought those skills would come in handy in my own home, I say with a bitter smile, trying to look tough but exhausted. It works. The doubt in the doctor's eyes is replaced by understanding. You're lucky to have such a strong will to live, Mr. Holland, he says. Many elderly people in your situation would have panicked or become depressed, but you still need rest and observation. I suggest you stay in the hospital for a few days. Of course, doctor, I agree obediently. I'm completely in your hands. As soon as he leaves, I allow myself a moment of triumph. The first hurdle has been cleared. The doctor believed my story despite the conflicting medical evidence. I've always been a good actor. Officer Parker enters the ward. She looks tired but determined. How are you feeling, Mr. Holland? She asks, sitting down on a chair next to the bed. Better than could be expected, I reply. The doctors say I've shown remarkable resilience. We've conducted a preliminary search of your home, she says, opening her notebook. We can confirm the fact of unlawful detention. All the exits were indeed blocked from the outside. The water was almost completely shut off. No food supplies were found. I mentally congratulate myself. The police didn't find the food I hid in the basement. We've started an investigation, Officer Parker continues, but we need your official statement. When the doctors say you're able to talk, I'd like to record your statement in more detail. Of course, I nod. I'll tell you everything that happened. Do you have any relatives who could take care of you after your discharge? She asks. We can't let you go home in this condition, especially considering that your daughter and son-in-law. I have a sister, I say after a short pause. Helen. We haven't spoken in several years because of a silly argument, but I think now is the time to mend our relationship. Would you like us to contact her? If possible, I'd like to do that myself, I say. It's a family matter. Everything needs to be explained properly. Officer Parker nods understandingly and leaves her business card. Call me when you're ready to give your statement, she says, and don't worry about your daughter and son-in-law. We'll contact the cruise line and local authorities. They won't get away with this. After she leaves, I lie there for a long time, staring at the ceiling. It's a strange feeling. I feel both triumph and bitterness. Triumph that my plan is working. Bitterness that I have to lie and betray my own daughter. But did I have a choice? They were the first to cross the line, locking me in my own home like a disobedient child or a madman. They wanted to show me my helplessness, to make me feel worthless, incapable of making decisions. They wanted to break me psychologically so that I would agree to their terms. I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. Only the stakes are higher. The nurse brings me the phone, and I dial Helen's number. We haven't spoken since Lorraine's funeral. 5 years of silence over some nonsense I don't even remember. I think she said something disrespectful about my decision to stay in the house after my wife died. Or maybe I said something about her new husband. What difference does it make now? Beeps. 1, 2, 3. My heart is pounding. What if she doesn't want to talk to me? What if she hangs up as soon as she hears my voice? Hello? Helen's voice, so familiar and yet so foreign, aged like my own. Helen? It's Chris. A pause, long, agonizing. Chris? She finally says. Is something wrong? Yes, I exhale. Elvis. She. And then something breaks inside me. I start telling her, confused, jumbled, jumping from one thing to another, about how my daughter and son-in-law locked me in my own house, how they wanted to force me to sell the house and move to Seaside Haven, how I was locked up for almost a week until the mailman showed up. I don't tell her that I distorted the truth about food and water. I don't admit that I deliberately set Elvis and Perry up, making the situation much worse than it really was. Some things are better kept to yourself, even from your sister. My God, Chris, Helen is shocked. That's a crime. Where are you now? St. Anne's Hospital in Annapolis, I reply, for a checkup. The doctors want to make sure everything's okay. I'm coming, she says firmly. I'll fly out of Tampa tomorrow. You don't have to, Helen, I try to argue. I'll be fine. Don't even try to argue, she says in a tone I remember from childhood. The tone of the older sister who always knew better. You can't stay alone after this, and I need to see that you're okay. God, Chris, your own daughter. I can hear genuine concern in her voice, sisterly protectiveness, despite the years of estrangement. It touches me deeply. Thank you, Helen, I say quietly. I'll be waiting. After talking to my sister, I feel a strange sense of relief. It's as if the weight I've been carrying all these years has been lifted a little. Perhaps there is a silver lining to this terrible situation, a chance to repair my relationship with Helen. In the evening, I feel worse, not physically but emotionally. Lying in the silence of the hospital room, I begin to doubt my plan. Am I doing the right thing? Have I gone too far? It's one thing to seek justice, but it's quite another to deliberately slander your own daughter by accusing her of attempted murder. But every time the doubts come too close, I remember the moment when I realized I was locked in my own home. The humiliation, the helplessness, the rage, and Elvis and Perry's determination to manipulate me, using my isolation as a weapon of psychological pressure. No, they deserve a lesson. Cruel, perhaps, but necessary. In the morning, another police officer arrives, Detective Morgan, a serious, middle-aged man with attentive eyes. He writes down my statement, asks clarifying questions, and asks me to describe everything in minute detail. I tell him my version of events, the one I have carefully prepared, about how Elvis and Perry took my cell phone, disconnected the landline, and locked all the exits. How they left a minimal amount of food, which quickly ran out. How they turned off the water, leaving only a thin trickle. They wanted me to agree to sell the house, I say, looking him straight in the eye. They wanted to break me psychologically, but I don't think they expected it to go this far, that I would actually start starving. Nevertheless, their actions could be classified as attempted murder, Detective Morgan says. If a person is deprived of food and water, knowing that they cannot escape, it is a direct threat to their life. I don't want my daughter to be accused of attempted murder, I say, feigning confusion. That's too serious. Maybe just unlawful imprisonment? It's a tactical move to show that, despite everything, I still care about my daughter. That I don't want her to get hurt, I'm just looking for justice. It'll make my story even more convincing. Unfortunately, Mr. Holland, the detective replies, the law is the law. If a person is deprived of the basic necessities of life, it's no longer just deprivation of liberty, but the final decision on the charges will be made by the prosecutor. After the detective leaves, I have an appointment with the hospital psychologist doctor. Lee, a young woman with a penetrating gaze and gentle manners. She listens attentively to my story, asks cautious questions, and doesn't rush or pressure me. How did you feel when you realized you were locked up? She asks. At first, I didn't believe it, I answer honestly. I thought it was some kind of mistake. Then I panicked, and then I felt anger, so strong that I couldn't sleep. Those are natural reactions, she nods. And how do you feel about your daughter now? I pause as if fighting back emotions. Disappointment, I finally say. Bitterness. But most of all, confusion. How could she do this? What did I do to deserve this? Dr. Lee writes something down in her notebook. Mr. Holland, what you've been through is a serious trauma, especially considering that the betrayal came from someone so close to you. You will need time and professional help to cope with this. I nod, feigning humility and vulnerability. Another confirmation for my case, a psychologist's conclusion about psychological trauma. Helen arrives in the evening. I hardly recognize her. Gray hair, wrinkles that weren't there 5 years ago. But her eyes are the same, bright, lively, determined. Chris, she hugs me and I smell her perfume, the same one she used to wear. You look better than I expected. I'm a tough nut, sis, I smile. I always have been. She smiles, and for a moment we are children again, me and my older sister, who always protected me from the bullies in the yard. Tell me, she demands, sitting down on a chair. Everything from the beginning. And I tell her almost everything. About how Elvis and Perry insisted on selling the house and moving to Seaside Harbor. About their last visit before the cruise. About how I discovered I was locked in. About the days I spent looking for a way out. About the mailman, Vernon, who called the police. There's only one thing I don't tell them, that I fabricated the evidence of abuse by hiding food and partially turning off the water. No one needs to know that part of the story. How could she? Helen shakes her head, tears welling up in her eyes. I never approved of how Elvis treated you in recent years. But this is beyond the pale. They wanted my house, I say bitterly. They need money, and I'm an obstacle. What are you going to do when they come back? The police are already on it, I reply. The detective said they'll contact the cruise line. Elvis and Perry will be arrested as soon as they return to port. Oh my God, Chris. Helen squeezes my hand. That's terrible. Arrest, trial. Are you ready to go through all that? Do I have a choice? I ask. They have to answer for what they did. If I just forgive them, they'll think they can keep manipulating me. No, Helen, this has to end. She nods in agreement. You can't go back to that house alone, she says firmly. Not after everything that's happened. I know, I agree, but I'm not going to Coastal Haven either. That's exactly what they want. Come with me to Florida, Helen suggests. I have a big house, plenty of room. Sea air, sunshine all year round. You'll love it. I look at my sister in surprise. After 5 years of silence, she's offering me a place to live with her? Are blood ties really that strong? Are you sure? I ask. We haven't talked in so long. It was a silly argument, she dismisses. Life is too short for grudges. I'm your sister, Chris, and right now you need support. I feel a lump forming in my throat. Helen's sincerity touches me deeply. In a world where my own daughter has betrayed me, my sister is reaching out to help. Thank you, Helen, I say quietly. I'll think about your offer. The next day, Frank Donovan, my old friend and lawyer, calls me. It turns out that Helen contacted him and told him about the situation. Chris, this is crazy, Frank says when he comes to visit me in the hospital. I've known Elvis since she was a kid. I never would have thought she was capable of this. People change, Frank, I reply. Money changes people. And Perry has always been obsessed with status and success. Frank is an experienced lawyer specializing in family law. He listens carefully to my story, asks clarifying questions, and takes notes. From a legal standpoint, this is a very serious situation, he says. Unlawful imprisonment, abuse of an elderly person, possibly even attempted murder if the prosecutor believes that the deprivation of food and water was intentional, plus probably attempted real estate fraud if it can be proven that the ultimate goal was to force you to sell the house. What are their chances of defending themselves, I ask, even though I already know the answer. Honestly, almost none. Frank shakes his head. The fact of confinement is indisputable. The police recorded the locks that were installed on the outside. The lack of food and water was also documented. Even if they claim they left you food and didn't touch the water, where's the proof? It's their word against yours and the physical evidence. What about the fact that I'm Elvis's father? Won't that work in my favor? On the contrary, Frank frowns. Abuse of an elderly parent is an aggravating circumstance. Family ties mean special responsibility. The court will view this as a particularly cynical crime. I nod, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and bitterness. The plan is working even better than I expected. Elvis and Perry are in for serious trouble. Maybe even jail time. I want you to represent me, I tell Frank, if it goes to trial. Of course, Chris, he shakes my hand. I'll make sure justice is served. After Frank leaves, I lie in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling. Justice. What is justice? Is what I'm doing fair? Or have I crossed the line, turning from victim to avenger? Elvis and Perry locked me up to break me down psychologically, to force me to submit to their will. It was cruel and illegal, but they didn't deprive me of food and water. They didn't try to kill me by starving me or making me thirsty. That's my lie, my exaggeration, my revenge. I feel a pang of conscience. But then I remember the humiliation I felt when I realized I was locked in my own home, like a disobedient child or a madman. I remember the years of Elvis' condescending looks, her attempts to control my life, her insistence on Coastal Harbor. I remember Perry's smirk when he talked about selling the house, as if he was already counting the money he would get. No, they deserve this lesson. Cruel? Yes, but necessary. I've been the nice old man who can be ignored and manipulated for too long. It's time to show that this old man still has teeth, and they're very, very sharp. Deep down, I know I'll never forgive myself for this lie. that my relationship with my daughter is ruined forever, that I will hurt not only Elvis and Perry, but myself as well. But I've gone too far to stop now. The plan is in motion. The wheels of justice, my justice, are already turning. There's no stopping it, and I don't want to stop it. Let them know what it's like to be helpless, what it's like when your fate is in someone else's hands, what it's like when the people closest to you betray you. I close my eyes, feeling a strange calmness. Whatever happens next, I'm ready. I'm no longer a victim. I'm a hunter, and my prey has no idea that it's already caught in the trap. 2 weeks passed in a blur. I was discharged from the hospital on the 4th day. Medically, I was in satisfactory condition. I moved in with Helen, who had rented a room in a hotel near my house. She insisted on staying in Annapolis until the situation was resolved. The police kept me regularly informed of the investigation. Detective Morgan reported that they had contacted the cruise line and informed the authorities at the next port of call of the need to detain Elvis and Perry. Frank Donovan, my lawyer, prepared all the necessary documents for the indictment. Chris, are you sure you want to go ahead with this? Helen asked me the day before Elvis and Perry returned. She's your daughter, no matter how terrible her actions may be. I've turned a blind eye to her behavior for too long, I replied. I've allowed her to treat me like a helpless old man who can't make decisions. It's time to put an end to this. Helen nodded, not entirely convinced, but accepting my decision. The police offered to let me be present during the arrest, but I declined. I didn't want to see the look on Elvis's face when she realized I had turned the tables on her. Instead, I waited at Frank's house for news. The phone rang at 3:30. Detective Morgan reported that Elvis and Perry had been arrested at the port as they disembarked from a cruise ship. They had been taken to the police station to be charged. They're completely shocked, the detective said. They claim they don't understand what they're being charged with. They say the house was full of food, the water was working fine, and they just wanted you to cool off and think about your behavior. Of course, I said bitterly. What about the locks on the windows and doors installed from the outside? Is that also part of giving you time to think? They don't deny locking you in, the detective explained. But they insist they had no malicious intent. They claim they took care of your comfort, left enough food, water, entertainment. They just wanted to make sure you couldn't leave the house and hurt yourself while they were away. Hurt myself? My indignation was genuine. They're talking about me as if I'm incompetent. That's exactly what they're saying, replied the detective. That you've been acting strange lately, refusing medical attention, showing signs of dementia, that they were afraid for your safety. I felt a cold rage rising inside me. They didn't just lock me up. They're trying to make me look crazy to justify their actions. This only strengthened my resolve to see this through to the end. They can say whatever they want, I said, but the facts speak for themselves. The police found the house without food and with the water turned off. The doctors recorded my condition when I was admitted. There is a witness, the postman Vernon, who called the police. It's their word against all this evidence. The detective agreed with me and said that Elvis and Perry had been released on bail pending trial, but they were forbidden to come near me or my house. I thanked him for the information and hung up, feeling a strange emptiness inside. Victory? Yes, but a bitter one. The next few days turned into a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Frank represented me at the preliminary hearings. The prosecutor decided to charge Elvis and Perry with unlawful imprisonment, cruel treatment of an elderly person, and attempted real estate fraud. The attempted murder charge was dropped due to lack of evidence of intent. I had to testify before a grand jury. I repeated my story, how I woke up in a locked house, how I discovered there was no food and the water had been turned off, how I tried to survive by conserving the few crumbs that remained. I spoke confidently, looking the jurors in the eye. I had prepared well for this moment. Elvis and Perry hired an expensive lawyer who built their defense on the claim that they had acted with the best of intentions, that I had recently shown signs of cognitive impairment, forgetting important events, displaying unreasonable aggression, refusing medical attention, that they had locked me up for my own safety, leaving everything I needed for a comfortable stay. Mr. and Mrs. Clapton acted like caring children concerned about the well-being of their elderly father, their lawyer said at the hearing. They couldn't cancel a long-planned vacation, but they couldn't leave Mr. Holland unattended, given his behavior in recent months. It was a blatant lie, and I was outraged by their attempt to make me look crazy. But I held back, knowing that my calmness and level-headedness were the best refutation of their claims. The turning point came when the prosecutor presented evidence obtained from Elvis and Perry's emails and messages. The police obtained a warrant for their electronic devices, and what they found caused a sensation in the courtroom. The messages exchanged between Elvis and Perry in the months leading up to the incident clearly revealed their true motives. The old man will never voluntarily agree to sell the house. We'll have to convince him. Maybe a few weeks in solitary will make him realize how helpless he really is. When we get back from the cruise, he'll be ready to sign anything to get out of this situation. The realtor says we can get about $1 million for the house. Can you imagine what we could do with that kind of money? These messages broke down their defenses. It was impossible to argue that they were acting out of concern when their financial interest and intention to manipulate me psychologically were written in black and white. At that moment, I felt not triumph, but deep sadness. These messages confirmed what I knew deep down, but didn't want to admit. My daughter didn't see me as a father, but as an obstacle to wealth, a source of money, not love and respect. After this evidence was presented, the case quickly moved toward conclusion. Elvis and Perry's lawyer offered a deal with the prosecution, a guilty plea in exchange for a lighter sentence. The prosecutor agreed, considering my age and desire to avoid a lengthy trial. Elvis and Perry pleaded guilty to unlawful imprisonment and attempted fraud. The court sentenced them to 3 years probation, a large fine, and community service. A restraining order was also issued, prohibiting them from coming within 500 meters of me for 5 years. Their reputation in Annapolis was ruined. The story of how a daughter and son-in-law locked their elderly father in his own home to take his property spread throughout the city. Perry lost his job at the insurance company. Who would trust their affairs to someone capable of such a thing? Elvis was no longer invited to the local club where she had been an active member. Former friends turned their backs on them. I watched it all from the sidelines, not feeling the satisfaction I had expected. Revenge wasn't as sweet as I had imagined. After the trial was over, Helen asked me again to move to Florida with her. "There are too many painful memories here for you, Chris," she said. "A new place, new people, a new life. That's what you need." This time I agreed. There was no point in staying in a house that had become a symbol of betrayal. Besides, I felt uncomfortable in a town where everyone knew my story, looked at me with pity, and whispered behind my back. I decided to sell the house. Not for the money, I had enough to live comfortably, but because I wanted to break with the past once and for all, to start with a clean slate, as much as possible at my age. Frank helped me with the sale. The house sold quickly. Property on the bay is always in demand. I didn't take a cent more than was necessary to cover the costs of moving and settling into my new home. I donated the rest to charity, a fund that helps victims of domestic violence. The irony did not escape me. Before I left, I visited Lorraine's grave. I laid a bouquet of her favorite hydrangeas, blue, like the sea on a clear day. I stood there for a long time, silently saying goodbye. To her, to the house, to the life we had built together. "I'm sorry I'm leaving you," I said finally, "but I think you would have understood. You always said that a house is not the walls, but the people who live in it. My family now is Helen, and maybe it was always meant to be this way." On the last day before my departure, I walked through the empty house, saying goodbye to each room. Standing on the porch, I took one last look at the bay, at the seagulls circling above the water, at the path along the shore where Lorraine and I had walked so many times. It hurt to leave, but it would have hurt even more to stay. Elvis tried to contact me before I left. She sent a letter asking to meet, asking for a chance to explain. I didn't respond. Whatever she said wouldn't change the facts. It wouldn't erase the betrayal. It wouldn't restore the trust she had destroyed. Maybe someday I'll find the strength to forgive, but not now. The wounds are too fresh. I moved in with Helen in Tampa in early fall. Her house, a spacious bungalow overlooking the bay, became my new home. It wasn't as familiar as the house in Annapolis, but it was cozy and peaceful. Helen is the perfect neighbor. She respects my personal space, doesn't try to control my life, and doesn't talk down to me like I'm a child or a frail old man. We quickly found a comfortable rhythm of living together. We have breakfast together, discuss the news, and sometimes play cards in the evenings. But most of the day, we each go about our business. I've found new hobbies. I've signed up for painting classes, started volunteering at the local library, bought a used boat, and often go fishing. I've gotten to know my neighbors. They're retirees like me, but without the heavy burden of family betrayals weighing them down. Sometimes I think about what happened, about my lies, about how I twisted the truth to get back at Elvis and Perry. Do I feel guilty? Yes, sometimes, especially when I wake up in the middle of the night and remember Elvis's expression in the courtroom, confused, bewildered, betrayed. But then I remember how I felt when I found myself locked in my own home. Humiliation, helplessness, rage. And I realized that they deserved what they got. Maybe not such a harsh punishment, not prison, not a ruined reputation, but a lesson, definitely. They wanted to show me my helplessness, to make me feel worthless, incapable of making decisions, to break me psychologically so that I would agree to their terms. I simply responded in kind. Only the stakes were higher than they expected. Can I live with that? Yes. It's the price I'm willing to pay for freedom from their manipulation, for the right to live the way I want, not the way they think I should. I don't regret my decision, only that it came to this, that my own daughter saw me not as a father, but as an obstacle to wealth. That money was more important to her than family ties. Sometimes, sitting on the porch of Helen's house, watching the sunset over the bay, I think about Lorraine. What would she say about this whole situation? Would she condemn me for lying? Or would she understand that sometimes you have to fight with any means necessary to protect your life and dignity? I'll never know the answer, but I want to believe she would have understood. She always understood me better than anyone else. Life goes on, slower than before, calmer, without the tension of Elvis's constant attempts to control me, without pressure, without manipulation, without humiliation. I am free. I live the way I want to. I make my own decisions, and no one will ever dare to lock me up again like a disobedient child or a crazy old man. Was it worth losing my daughter? It's hard to say, but I think I lost her long before I locked the doors of my house. I lost her the moment she stopped seeing me as her father and started seeing me as an obstacle to her wealth. What will happen next? I don't know. Maybe someday Elvis will realize that money isn't the most important thing in life. Maybe someday she will sincerely regret what she did. Maybe someday I'll find the strength to forgive her. For now, I live day by day. I enjoy the freedom I fought so hard to win. I'm learning to be happy despite everything. And when I hear the seagulls crying over the bay at night, I remember my home in Annapolis. Not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the years I spent there with Lorraine, for the happiness we shared, for the life we built together. The house is in the past, but the memories are always with me. And no one can lock them away or take them away.